3, 4. Hello! Welcome everybody to a great special episode of Cup of Grata. It was Cup of Grata. And now we're calling it the Gratitude EQ Playground. Threw you off for a second. Today I have a very special guest. You know who this is. His name is David Strickel. He is the founder and creator of the Taya practice. That's Trust Your Abundance. The Stream of David is his podcast known around the world. He has this incredible, beautiful, beautiful boot camp and community called the Taya Boot Camp, which I, yours truly, have been part of for many, 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 many years. So without further ado, I'm going to bring David up. We're going to be jumping into your questions. So start typing them into the chat. Anything that you'd like to know about some of the issues and topics going on in today. Nothing's off limits, so feel free to ask whatever you'd like. I don't know if David's actually going to go into channel. He did that yesterday. We are going to go over some of the things that we discussed yesterday in yesterday's podcast. But in the meantime, let's just bring up David. Welcome to the stage. You really don't need an introduction. Hello?
It's good to be here as always. And we had a lot of fun yesterday channeling. And I wasn't planning on channeling today because we went so deep yesterday. I'm still recovering from that.
Oh, it was so good.
That was a very good. They oh my gosh, some really good stuff came from all of that. So the audience can go back and watch that after this, but we're going to have some fun today.
We are going to have a blast. Hey, y'all, what are those pressing questions on your mind? What are the things that keep you awake at night? Is it the 7 planets aligning today? Did you know that, David? 7 planets today are aligned. Not again till like 2040.
Well, that's good energy then.
Yeah, I'm telling you what.
What are we going to do with it? Well, the funny thing is that energy is always flowing, and you can be sort of a victim of the energy, or you can say, what am I going to do with this energy flow?
Yeah, absolutely.
Positive or negative, it doesn't matter. Really, there's no such thing as negative, really, but we choose to have negative experiences sometimes with certain energy flows. But really, when the energy is flowing, we get to decide what we do with it.
I love that. And you know something, I want to take a deeper dive into that. And a lot of other things. I want to talk about anxiety today. I want to talk about what is it that's alarming your nervous system and how that we use Taya tools to really address this. And then I think it's just super important because I think there's a lot of that angst going on out there in the world. So rather than focus on that, I want to talk about the tools that we have and that we can share to actually move through it and live a more abundant life from the inside out. And that's actually where it's leading me into, David, I want to talk about living an abundant life inside out and how that they're going to be able to do that at your upcoming event on March 15th and 16th at Indian Wells over in the Palm Springs area of California. I'm going to be there, everybody. But David, I'm going to give you the screen for a moment and just have you go ahead and tell everybody what this extraordinary event is about. The link will be in the chat, everyone, for you to go ahead and click on that. David, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, I'm actually going to pop the link in first because I will start talking and I will totally forget to share the link with everybody because there are tickets available. We have a 2-day event. It is Saturday, March 15th and Sunday, March 16th in Indian Wells. We're at a beautiful resort in Indian Wells, about 30 minutes from the Palm Springs airport. So if you're in Southern California and you can make it, or if you want to make a quick impromptu trip to Southern California and you want to come down and spend 2 days with us, what we're going to do on Saturday is I'm going to be sharing the stream. I'll be channeling the stream for 4 hours on Saturday. So 4-hour event plus some breaks peppered in there. And there's certainly food and things available at this resort. So when we take breaks, you can kind of go explore the resort, do your own thing, come back. And so we're not sitting in a room for 4 full hours. But during this 4 hours, I am going to go right into channeling mode, sharing source consciousness, and we will be bringing people up from the audience to sit with the stream. You can ask anything that you want. We don't have a set agenda, and that's by design, because what we want to do is all the participants, we want all of that energy of all of the participants coming in, asking questions to sort of form a vibration of this event. And that's going to create this experience. Every time we do these live events, we have this sort of magical journey into source consciousness together because we're all beings of source. I'm just sharing it verbally in a more direct way. That's all. So we're going to get together for those 4 hours. And then on Sunday, we are going to activate all of those teachings. And by activate, I mean we are going to workshop, spend 2 hours workshopping everything that we learned from Source on Saturday. So any new tools, any new insights, anything along those lines. Of course, we will use the Taya practice as the framework. This is the book that I wrote, the Taya practice, and this is what I've been teaching in Taya Boot Camp since 2018. Debbie you took Taya Boot Camp in 2018, didn't you?
2018.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you were one of our first people. So
Yeah.
Debbie went through boot camp. Her husband Joe went through boot camp a couple of years later. We have over 200 graduates now all over the world from Taya Boot Camp. And we know how to teach this, and we know the tools work. We see major life transformations happening as a result of this. If you don't want to just take my word for it, you can always pop over to Trustpilot after this video and look at our Trustpilot reviews. We have a 5-star rating on Trustpilot of all positive reviews from people who have graduated boot camp and have transformed their lives as a result. So this workshop is a taste of that. We have some boot camp graduates coming to the event, of course, but whether you've taken boot camp yet or not, it doesn't matter. You will still get a lot out of this. And we have added a Saturday only option so that those that live in Southern California that don't necessarily want to stay the night can just come for the channeling portion on Saturday. So if you click the link that I shared here, you have both of those ticket options available to you. We're in a small space.
Yeah.
So space is limited. So if you believe you want to do this and you're going to manifest your way there, click the link and grab your tickets.
Woo! Hey, y'all. It's going to be a blast. So besides that, you totally want to join me there. Stephanie, you're absolutely right. What an uplifting and empowering event. I completely agree because I was at the other event and it's an experience and you all just need to come because it's an experience. It's not something you can describe. It's just an experience, and coming to the experience is really what I encourage you all to do, because what I know is that I've had a lot of things happen in my life, and it's those experiences that sink in deep. You know, you can go to dinner and have a great time and kind of remember that food you ate, or maybe not, or if it was so extraordinary it blew your mind, and so possibly maybe it might stick. But experiences last forever.
Yeah. I have a funny story. Remember that the event that we did in LA in 2022?
Yeah.
When one of our graduates, Luke,
Yes.
came and he brought his brother.
Yes.
His brother's a skeptic, and his
Yes.
brother was coming along to make sure that his brother Luke wasn't getting indoctrinated into a cult.
Yes. Oh, this is true. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, this is totally true. You know, like this.
Yeah. So he brought the brother who
got to make sure you're safe.
Yeah. Who's this cult guy that you're following now? I'm going to come with you and make sure you're not being brought into some cult. And so his brother came along for the trip, and his brother was sitting in the back, assuming being a skeptic, and came up on stage to question the stream. And he said, as soon as he sat down and looked into my eyes, he said, I realized I wasn't talking to just a human being. I don't see myself that way. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's the experience that he had. That he transformed. Oh, hi, Luke.
And Luke's coming.
I love sharing that story that, somebody that came on as a skeptic was called to come up and sit, which I have to applaud him for wanting to sit and chat. And when he did, he got totally transformed into, oh my gosh, okay, I kind of get it now. I see what this is all about. So
yeah, please do please get your ticket.
I know who that is. I hope you do. I want to meet you in person, so please do come down to the event. So the event's going to be a lot of fun. It's beautiful down here this time of year. The weather actually is cloudy today here, but generally it's absolutely gorgeous this time of year in the Palm Springs area. So I'm looking forward to seeing everyone down here. We're going to have a great time. So that's what the event is all about. Again, it doesn't matter whether you've graduated boot camp or not. The event is going to be very meaningful for you. They're two separate things, teaching the same thing, but this is certainly going to be a big taste of all that.
Absolutely. So, y'all, let's dig into some stuff. I know that somebody's got some pressing questions out there. What kept you up last night? I just know it did. Like, I can feel you out there.
Well, anxiety is a really good topic because what's going on right now is that the anxiety of humanity is amping up. This isn't anything new, but it's certainly amping up. And we're seeing the matrix get a little more crazy. The matrix is just coming on a little stronger. And there's more, and you know the matrix is coming on stronger. A clear sign of matrix is polarity, division.
Mm-hmm.
So the matrix wants to separate you from other humans. The matrix wants to say, make us one-dimensional beings. Think about what the center of the matrix is, sort of the sweet spot. You know, you're when you're polarized, you're kind of operating in the center, you're in a pretty good place. But when you start getting pulled really far in one direction or the other, then you're really sort of doubling down on that being a one-dimensional way of being. I am completely right and you are completely wrong. And I know you all know what I'm talking about. We see a lot of this. We see a whole lot more of
Yes.
this now than we have in the past.
Yeah, we do.
That's the matrix that wants to divide. And when we're divided, we're definitely deep in the matrix. And being divided ultimately doesn't feel good. For a little while, it might, because you kind of feel like, well, I'm going to run over here to this side. And I'm going to align with this because I'm terrified of everything that's going on. And when I align with this way of thinking and sort of make this my identity, at least I have an identity in the matrix,
Yeah.
right? Because we need that belief system. We need some sort of set of rules and identity because we run on an operating system that is our belief system. And when we're stuck in the matrix, we have to assign ourselves to a matrix assigned identity. That's what politics and religion and all that stuff is all about. You're this or you're that, and this is what you are and what you're supposed to be when you're one of these things. And it's sort of soothing in the moment, but ultimately it's not very satisfying because your source being is not there. Your source being is all over the place saying, no, 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 you don't have to do that. Come this way. Get out of that matrix. Don't be so polarized. Don't be so judgmental about what people that are different or think different than you are experiencing. Have appreciation for all of it. And the matrix is so dead set against that.
Right. Well, there's something that comes up for me about actually, I'm going to kind of talk about the event a little bit, you guys, but I have a reason for this, so don't get all tripped out about it. What David's talking about with the identity or the belief systems, what I know is that when we get stuck and when our nervous systems are stuck and we're stuck in patterns and we're stuck in our life, it takes an interrupt to start altering these patterns. And we can do this interrupt at any time we make choices and actually stick to the decision. But let me give you a heads up about what the interrupt can look like if you alter your physical experience, like going to the event and hanging out with us, for one, and changing your environment for a few and altering the people you're around for a few and seeing, really paying attention when you walk in that door. What am I feeling like right now? And really pay attention to what am I feeling like when I'm leaving? What am I taking with me that I'm going to use in my everyday existence to feel freaking awesome? But pattern interrupt is so vital in order to break anxiety. And Taya has so many pattern disruptors, and let's talk about a couple of those. But I mean, one of them is, y'all, get your damn ticket. Joe, I see you. Get your ticket, because I want to meet you in person too. I know exactly who you are. And come on out. You need a pattern disruptor. Just saying.
Yeah, you bring up a good point because it's sort of like when we go on vacation, we automatically relax a little more because we're out of our home environment.
Yes.
Vacations don't really work as well as vacations because
Exactly.
You're still in your everyday vibe. You're not really removing yourself from that. So you're automatically going to get pulled back into the leaky faucet and the phone call and the email and all of that stuff. It just doesn't work the same. So when you take yourself out of your regular vibe, even if it's for the day, a couple of days, you're going to have a new framework to create a new vibration for yourself and a new belief system. We're starting to talk to people about doing longer retreats, like especially outside the United States, not this year, but next year. And that's a big part of what they do. As they say, it's so transformative to kind of get offsite, go to a different country, go to a resort in a different country and spend a longer period of time, 5 or 7 days, and really reinvent yourself and recharge yourself in that experience because you're in that vacation mode. If we could do it for 2 days, that's worth a lot just to come for 2 days and do a little 2-day recharge, especially when the matrix is getting so noisy with us. We don't want to be caught up in all of that polarized, fear-based reality that so many people are operating in right now. Fear and judgment. Yeah. There's fear on one side and there's judgment on the other side, right? It's all really the same thing.
I love this. So Laura's popping up, and we'll keep those retreats for the future. Put that in your mind, people. How can we decipher better between intuition and our human thoughts that may be led by fear? I really love this. I want to talk about that. I have an experience to share. Intuitive truth based hunches versus ego conditioned thoughts. So I want to talk about an experience I recently had. I found a puppy and I decided I wanted to save the puppy because I just wanted to save this dog. I didn't really need to go back to the Humane Society and get the dog, but I did. Anyway, so this dog's sick all the way back to my house, and it had the cutest pink bed and it had the sweetest things ever. My intuition, I thought I was going on, was the dog's going to be fine. I'm doing all the things I know to do. And in my brain, I had myself convinced she would be okay. Okay. So when I'm looking at this ego versus my intuition, she wasn't okay. She did get loved on for 5 full days and unfortunately didn't make it, but she got 5 full days of some serious hardcore love. But that ego or intuition, that the ego wanting something so badly that it's convinced my brain that that's the way it's going to be. And the heartbreak when the reality was there wasn't anything I could do to help her stay on the planet because that wasn't her experience. But, when we really sit back and we look at ourselves as a human being, I ask myself, so did I have a need to save? Did I have a need for what? Or is it just an experience that I was having? And I was more questioning the fact that I was convinced in my brain, David, that I was convinced she was going to be all right.
Yeah, well,
Convinced.
you had an ego-driven desire to save the
Yeah.
dog, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong. We are not going to release our ego as long as we're in physical. We can detune it, but we're not going to release it. Ego is not a bad thing, but having a preference is always ego. And to answer, I think it was Laura's question. The question's gone now. From my perspective, and from what the stream always shares, is that anytime there's preference of anything, that's ego. But when you get above neutral, if you've done the vibrational spiral training that we offer in Taya, and you get
Mm-hmm.
above neutral, where you've got more source and less ego, source is now 51% or more of your vibe in that moment. When you've got that going on, then your preference, your ego is co-creating with source. So you're going to
Mm.
have a higher vibrational preference, and therefore you're going to have a higher vibrational outcome as long as you stay in that space. So if you allow your ego to discern the preference of, I'm going to save this puppy. And of course, the other part of your ego could be saying, don't do it, don't do it. It's going to be heartache, or it's going to cost you a fortune, or all of that stuff that comes up. You chose to ignore those things and instead set your preference toward, I'm going to save the puppy. And you were probably operating, as you often do, above neutral with source peppered in there. And source is saying, there's no getting this wrong. There's no getting this wrong. Any preference. That's why source is not ever guiding us to anything specific. And that's a very hard thing for a lot of people to grasp, because we are all fed all of this. God has a plan for you and there's a path for you. Even spirituality talks about a soul contract, or the Akashic records are indicating that this is what you're supposed to experience. But really, that's still all human creation, because there's still
Yeah.
ego involved there. So when we take ego out of it completely, source is not guiding us to anything. And that's hard. People think they have spiritual guides. What you have when your spiritual guides are guiding you is your ego. And if you're above neutral, that's high vibrational guidance. So if you want to call that spiritual guidance, that's fine. But the preference is still ego. All the way to the top of your spiral, preference is still going to be ego. So the
Mm.
preference in that scenario was, do it. Try to save the dog, have the experience. But then the way you, and I talked to you during this time, and you were still in a high vibrational space of, whatever the outcome, I gave this dog 5 glorious days, perhaps the best 5 days of its existence. because it was a pretty young dog, right?
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah. So, it was already maybe a little too far gone to really sustain the physical
Yeah,
vehicle, but you gave it love and it knows that and it knew that. And that
it
was a
so
great
did.
experience for you. And so if you continue not to judge the experience, then that's exactly what it is. It is a glorious experience that you had, that that dog had, and that everyone around you is having just hearing about it. You could fixate on the sadness of the loss, or you can fixate on or choose to focus on the gloriousness of the experience itself, that you gave a wonderful snippet of time at the end of this dog's experience. You gave it comfort, you gave it love, you gave it joy, and it was an experience for you that was temporary, as all experiences are, but it was
All of
very
them are.
temporary for you. And not judging it, you really do see the benefit of it, that source guided me in a direction, but really it was my preference. And source is saying there's no getting this wrong, and there wasn't any getting it wrong.
It's true, though. It really is. And then we took her, up to the mountains and ended that experience with as much grace as possible. And it's really what came from it was the grace. But intuition is our heart. Intuition's not confusing, David, is it?
No.
No.
The higher you go on the spiral, the more you realize I can't get this wrong. There's no reason, because confusion is always rooted in fear. And that's the lower vibrational
Mm.
ego. Oh my gosh, this could go wrong, or that could go wrong, or this could be a wrong decision, or you're going to suffer some way. And your source being, your soul, is always calling you forward saying, just do it. Just do it. Have the experience. There's no getting it wrong. You're going to move through multiple experiences through your lifetime, and all of them are there to expand your consciousness.
All of them.
Period. All of them. And if you stop judging good and bad and wanted and not wanted and all that sort of thing, then you can sort of look back at the whole collection of your experiences in life and realize it's made me a wiser being having those experiences. If you get out of the victim space, get out of that space that the matrix wants you to be in. Oh, you poor thing, that shouldn't have happened to you. They were so bad. That was so challenging. That shouldn't have never been. That's where all the suffering resides.
Yeah.
All the anxiety, all the fear, all that stuff is down there in that lower vibrational field of fear and judgment. When you detune that stuff and just allow your ego to be the discerner of preference that it is, I like this, I'd rather not experience that. But if I do experience that, I'll be okay. That's a very source-driven life.
Yeah.
To move through life really appreciative of all of your experiences, including, and I know the stream got into this yesterday, when we teach ourselves to appreciate the low vibrational flow that we all experience from time to time,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to move through it very efficiently, and you're going to create as a result of it instead of suffering in it. And that's,
Yeah.
you want to talk
Yeah.
about the secret. The secret is not sitting around and dreaming up a damn bicycle and having it show up in front of your house to make you feel good for a moment. I know, that book did a lot for a lot of people, but sometimes
Yeah.
it drives me nuts.
Oh my
The real
God, that's
secret is
funny.
that. The real secret is that. The real secret is the low vibrational stuff exists to expand consciousness, and we don't have to judge it the way that we've been taught to judge it.
We don't, actually. It's choice. And, the idea that you can take back the control over your brain, it's possible.
Yeah.
So
you don't have to be a victim of anything, which is great, because then you really have agency to create anything that you want in your life and recreate things that you've already experienced in a positive way, meaning reframing them to things that strengthen you and made you who you are and were
Absolutely.
good things for you, even if you suffered in the moment. As soon as you get out of the judgment of the suffering, then all of a sudden the whole experience shifts, and it's something that's really. My brother and I were talking about our upbringing the other day on text, and we had a very rough upbringing, and we both turned out really good. He does sort of what I do in a corporate fashion,
Yep.
and in a very Christian focus. We kind of ended up doing the same stuff. He's got a book, he's on podcasts, he kind of does the same thing as me. Very different than my stuff, but we ended up in this space, and it's so interesting because we are so vastly different. But
Mm-hmm.
the truth is that rough childhood did so much for us. We both turned out as teachers because we both healed and moved through, and we didn't do it in the same way. That just shows you there's not a one size fits all for all of humanity for a belief system, because this is different than mine.
You guys are both alike. That's why we're all just here sharing these experiences. And Debbie, I want to recognize you. Thank you, sweetheart. I see your messages are beautiful here, and I'm going to bring them up in a second. One of the things, David, that I understand about anxiety now, what we call anxiety, we've labeled it as this bad thing, and it's not. It is your body saying, hey, it's an alarm system. It's saying to you, fire alert, fire alert. Now, does it mean there's actually a real fire? No. This is where your mind control happens, because that's when the questioning comes in. That's when the curiosity begins. When you start saying, is that true? And then and then you instantly think low thought activity. You can walk outside for a few. Okay. You can just like look around you. Is that really true?
Yeah.
And
Well,
really,
again,
and pattern,
fear, right? It's always
right? Always.
the source is saying, here's the conspiracy theory that's meant
Yeah.
to drag you down your spiral
Yeah.
and control you. But if you look at it and say, could be, but that's okay, because source is saying that everything is okay.
Yeah. Everything is.
All there
Yeah.
to inspire creation. So I'm not going to let it drag my vibration down.
How can I see it differently? And
Yeah.
we see things differently when we shift our physical presence, our somatic being as well. So that's why you know what, David, I think every time we talk, practically, I talk about low thought activities, because literally, you guys, that's meditation. It's meditation is an action. If you're a person that could be labeled ADHD, if you're a person that might be labeled neuroadvanced, then perhaps these
Neuroadvanced. I like that.
well, that's actually what I am teaching is neuroadvanced.
I like that. I always hear neurodivergent.
No, it's yes.
Neuroadvanced is
Keep following me for the
appreciation. More
right. Keep following me for the Spark method in neuroadvanced living. It's like so but people like this, these low thought activities are going to save your ass, because literally when you start recognizing what it is that brings you that immediate shift, whatever that's going to be for you, it's that dynamic. And then what the stream has taught us is to go into an observation space from there. You can't get into an observation space till you interrupt what's going on. So that low thought activity, in order to observe what's really happening, what's really going on here, and I'm really curious. How could I see this differently?
Yeah, the low thought activity tool is something we teach that in boot camp, and it's sometimes you're so far down your spiral that when you try to meditate, your negative mind, your ego just takes over, and all the horrible things that and you're in that vibration. So of course you are that being. When you're in that lower vibrational space, you are a different being than you are when you're in the middle of your spiral, and you're certainly a different being than you are when you're up. This is why we behave differently when we're down our spiral. This is why we have temper, or we get angry, or we say nasty things that we regret when we're back up. We're a different being when we're down there. So when we're down there, if you're really down your spiral and you try to just sit and appreciate and meditate, oh, it feels so good, and off and be like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Here's 10 things that are wrong with the world right now that you should be focusing on, because you're not that being right now. And the low thought activity is the next best thing to do, because we can't always just sit. And I love sitting in silence. I love it, but we can't always do that. And so the low thought activity is doing something that we routinely do: take a shower, take a walk, gardening. My partner, Michael, he's a psychologist. He irons. He irons. It's cathartic. We have a whole drawer full of iron napkins because he irons. It's like a meditation for him, this ironing. If you think about it, if you've ever ironed, if you're an ironer, there's something about the repetitive motion and the steam and just kind of being in silence. Do it in silence. Don't do it in front of the television or with the radio on or anything like that. And just iron in silence sometimes. And you have to pay attention to what you're doing, because you could burn yourself. So it's low thought. You know what you're doing. It doesn't take a lot of, you're not trying to solve a math problem here. And it's a low thought activity that takes your thought down to something specific and really calms your ego down. And when you calm your ego down, source is always right there. We're not drawing source in. Sometimes I use that language, and I try not to do that. We're not drawing source in from somewhere else. Source is at our core all the time. It's always there. The ego just sort of gets noisy and overshadows it. It overtalks it. And when we calm ourselves, meditation, low thought activity, appreciation exercises, source becomes present.
I'd like to jump in here and share some scientific facts to back up what David is saying. Okay? Because this is my field of study and I love this stuff. So I am a neuro geek, and I love to understand how our brain works. When our ego kicks in, that's our fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. That's our limbic system gets hijacked, literally gets hijacked, and so we then get thrown offline. I want you to imagine your brains get thrown offline. When we're doing a back and forth motion like ironing, or we're looking back and forth doing different eye movements, or just getting outside and looking around, it allows our brain to go back online so that both hemispheres are now working again at the same time. And that is the reason low thought activity works so well. It has science behind all of this, source given solutions to what you need to be doing to live your life in a way that is more productive and feels better, period. And so when you really sit down and you look at the fact that the things that have came through Taya have science backing, there is no reason not to not do it differently. That's all I have to say there. You just have to do it different. You got to make a different choice. So on March 15th and 16th in Palm Springs, you can see David live and you can join us. And if you have any questions, oh, there is a question. I'm going to bring him up right now. I see there's lots of you online. Mirror, mirror, magic mirror. I don't know who you all are. Please type your name into the chat, where you're tuning in from, and also what burning question do you have? If we can't answer it now, we might answer it soon. So, ready, David?
Good. Are you going to read it? Or you want the audience to read it?
If our soul doesn't have a preference for us, where does intuitive guidance come from? Is anything like spirit guides guiding us, or is it our own preference setting up the next best step? We kind of went over this a little bit already, David did, but I'd love to take a deep.
Reiterate, because it gets
Let's go
confusing.
deep. Let's go deep. Yeah.
I understand the feeling of divine guidance. I understand that. And I understand the feeling and belief in spiritual guides. I have believed that at a time in my life. I just don't focus on that so much anymore. Really, what's beyond physical and non-physical is just an amalgam of source energy, all of it. And we focus on individuals because we're humans and we see things that way. But even the people that we are close to that pass on and we get in touch with that energy, or they visit us in a dream, that's not fake. It's very real, but we're creating it. They are source energy. They are all that is. They're much more than the human that we knew them as. Or if we have ancestral guides or some sort of guidance that we feel like that's coming to us, understand is it's still our human, it's our ego sort of dancing with source. And when you're up your spiral and you're discerning preferences in a high vibrational state, that guidance is going to be a higher vibration guidance that feels very true and real and divine to us. And there's nothing wrong with experiencing that. But it is source energy, and source isn't really discerning a preference. It's not discerning a preference at all, actually. It's just our ego playing with source. Now, when we get below neutral in our spiral and we've got less source, more ego, things start to go a little sideways. We get a little more fear, a little more judgment, a little more anxiety. We're a little more polarized. And then the further we go down that spiral, the more the lower vibration that becomes, I should say. I don't want to get too descriptive about all that. But really, humanity, if you've ever done the spiral training, humanity is programmed to operate at -5 on the spiral, which is below neutral. More ego, less source, more fear, more judgment, more comparison, more this is what you should be, this is what you should be doing, this is what you should have. All the fear, especially the fear tied to commerce. Think about how much fear is tied to money. Your retirement, your salary, your savings, your income, your credit score, your Social Security, Medicare, all those things have a big question mark on them right now. And there's a whole lot of fear built into all that. And all of that is meant to control our behavior. If we control your well-being through commerce, we are going to control your behavior and you're going to do what we want you to do. Now, I'm not saying that to demonize the matrix or our leaders or anything like that. But what we do in Taya is we appreciate everything, including our transgressors. So if you've been demonizing those folks or those type of people, then you want to detune that. You detune it through appreciation. Well, how do you get to appreciation? You understand it deeper. So you can say, okay, I understand that there are people that want to control mass behavior. But I also understand that they believe that that's necessary, and they believe they're the right person to do it for whatever reason. So that's appreciation. Because when we appreciate, we detune the transgressor energy there. We take away its power. Because when you are demonizing something, when you are judging anything as should not be, you are giving it power. And
Woo!
since duality, what you do when you give something power is you're bringing it into your life experience. And as part of the collective consciousness of humanity, you're also broadcasting it right back out and contributing that to that energy for all of humanity. So if there's a topic that you don't like and you're constantly beating the drum of should not be, you're creating more of it and you're
Mm-hmm.
drawing it in. So that's why we want to appreciate, but we can appreciate with clarity, understanding that are they trying to manipulate? Sure, they are. I understand them now. I don't have to fear them anymore. I can appreciate that their mindset is that they need to manipulate the masses, that they're the ones to do it. I'm okay with them believing that. I just don't have to play the game. That's the
No,
difference.
y'all don't have to play the game, but you do have to play this game. I'm going to bring up the flyer for David's event coming up. You guys can screenshot it, or if you're on your computer, you can hit the QR code. Okay, so go ahead and screenshot this if you're watching on your mobile device. And other than that, if you're on your computer screen, just get your phone really quickie like, and there you go. Alrighty. Do 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 do
The
do
picture there is the
do do
resort
do
where
do
we're actually
do.
going to be in Indian Wells. So that's our actual resort.
Nice. I like it. I like
2
it.
miles from my house, and it does not look like that today. So it's cloudy outside today, but it
We
will be sunny. It's sunny almost 360 days a year. It's sunny. So
well,
rare.
we are talking about Palm Springs, and it's just a beautiful area. Okay, so I want to talk about these people we call transgressors. You know, David, I had this experience recently where I needed to be okay being the villain in everybody's story. And then I had to sit back and go, am I like part villain?
We
And
all have that in us.
dude, like seriously.
We're not all
And
emotional beings. You know,
okay, no, this was so
we all have a little of everything in us.
I run into three people in the same vortex, we'll call it, that at one time in my life we were cool and then we weren't. And two of these people I gratefully hugged. Like I was like totally stoked about it. One of them, my nervous system said, yeah, nah. I discerned my preference. Okay. These things are going to happen and confrontation is going to happen, and how you're able to handle something that happened. You are not who you were when these things happened. You're very welcome, Laura. You are not who you were when whatever experience, you know, we're not the same person after any experience. We have to give it a moment to digest and to integrate and to help us to become the better versions of ourselves that the experience was there and designed for it to do. And stop judging it for that. And instead, I did this. I swear, oops, I could have hugged the bejesus out of these people. The ones I did choose to hug. Just simply for the pure fact that underneath any pain is the essence of wanting to be loved, because it's pain. The opposite of that is love. And so when we embrace what's really truly there underneath it, the reason that we're here as human beings to be that, life changes. And given the opportunity, stop avoiding the conflict. Stop avoiding the thing you call the hard thing just because you're a chicken shit about it. Realize that love is there to be expressed. And you know, we can express it as jerky, or we can express it as like a divine being. They both work. One feels better, you know. But without my tools, man, I couldn't have done this. But David, what do you think about that?
I think it's okay to have a preference. And I think that when you do some work on yourself and raise your vibration, the landscape of your relationships is going to shift.
Beautiful.
I have a story. I always have a story, right?
Yes.
I have a woman that went through, and she did this in her testimonial. So, you know, it's public. I'm not sharing anybody's private stuff here. I had a woman that went through boot camp. several years ago. And toward the end of boot camp, she was really broken when she came in. Really, she even said on her testimonial that she was ready to commit suicide when she came in, and she really transformed
Mm.
herself in boot camp. And when she was at the tail end of it, her best friend broke up with her as a friend. And she says, "You're so full of yourself now. I can't stand you anymore. I can't stand to be around you." And she
Mm.
was really confused by this and upset. And she says, "I don't understand it. She was always there for me when I was down." And I said, "Yeah, she was always there for you when you were down. She loved the down version of you. It made her feel good about
Mm.
herself. And now you're not there anymore. So you're not serving her needs anymore. And she didn't care enough about you to follow you up your spiral. And she's put off by you." That happens. I see that happen in these transformations that I witness just in what I do. And I see that a lot. I see it in
Yeah.
marriages sometimes. I tell people that come into boot camp, if they're in a relationship, we have a divorce rate as a result of boot camp. Because if you're already not vibing, and you decide to take some steps to do some work on yourself and raise your vibration, because that improves every aspect of your life, that other party, whether it's a friend or a lover or whatever type of relationship it is, it doesn't matter. They have two choices. They can appreciate you enough to love that you're doing better and sort of follow you up there, at least in the relationship, or they're going to be very put off by you and they can't handle being around you anymore. Not because you're so full of yourself, because you're this new spiritual woo-woo being, just because your general vibe is higher, life is going better, you're feeling better about yourself, and you don't need the same things from them anymore. So how transactional was that relationship that they can't appreciate the happier, non-suicidal version of someone? That's pretty damn extreme.
Well, it's the transactional love, it's transactional relationships. And I think that it's so important that y'all realize that the purest of relationships, there's no fear in you saying who and being who you are. People aren't going to go away, they're not going to disown you, and they're going to be able to say to you and be real with you as well. What happens is the frequency is no longer a match. It's quantum
Yeah.
it's quantum physics.
We have to
Okay.
choose to vibe with a partner for a lifetime if that's what we choose. I don't think it's even natural to do that personally. But if we do,
Okay.
I think you can choose to vibe together for a lifetime. And if
I
that's
think you can. I think you can choose
you're
it.
not just naturally going to do that because we evolve over time, right? I
Yeah.
like what Debbie shared earlier on here. I think she's only on Facebook, so people on YouTube can't see that. Yeah, that her ex-husband did the same thing, started
Yeah.
doing that. I'll tell you something that I see
Yeah.
happening when people get into spiritual stuff and the other person isn't, and you start getting better. They start sort of gaslighting you a little bit and saying, "Oh, you're in this crazy woo-woo stuff," or like I told the story earlier, "Are you in a cult? Or what is this crazy stuff that you're into? That's so, so silly and crazy." People ridicule things that they don't understand.
Mm.
Remember that. If they don't understand your experience and they're choosing to ridicule it, it's their own fear and confusion that's causing them to do that. So if you're in a relationship, any type of relationship, and you get into stuff like this, and I get that there's some, what do you call it, the rainbow and fairy dust version of spirituality out there, and it serves some people, and that's fine. I get that, and it seems woo woo. And there's a show that was on several years ago. I think it was called
Just
Enlightened,
kidding.
where Laura Dern, has anybody ever seen this show? So she has a mental breakdown in her company. She's
Yeah.
a high level executive, and her company sends her away to a spiritual retreat in Hawaii.
Yeah.
It's $50,000 at this spiritual retreat, and she comes back and she's all enlightened. And of course, the world, the quote unquote real world, is not ready for her enlightenment, and it doesn't play with her, and it ends up really blowing up in her face. Well, that's that sort of spiritual bypassing, a word Debbie taught me many years ago, version of spirituality. And it's okay as sort of a part of your process if that's where you're going. But that's the stuff people want to ridicule. But they want to lump us all into that and say there's no real value in any of this stuff. It's all fake.
Yeah.
But it's a belief system. It's just another belief system.
It's just another, but see, that's it. It is just another belief system. And this is the thing that cracks me up is that you get somebody going, well, I've always been this way. That's some scary shit right there. Okay. You always been that way. That's
They're
good.
choosing not to evolve and
But I mean,
stay stuck in their energy. And again, Source would say, fine, that's their experience. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're wanting to change your vibe and be happier, and they're not, there's going to be an issue there. You're going to have to work that out somehow in a relationship.
Yeah, you will, because it's lots of gaslighting and lessons, and you're grateful, and he called you crazy, and well, I love that for you, because the fact of the matter is that people showing you who they are is probably good for you to see.
Clarity is my favorite. My favorite. Somebody asked me that, you've manifested all these things in your life. What's your favorite manifestation? My favorite manifestation
Clarity.
of finding out where I stand with someone or on
Yeah.
something, or clarity about myself, just genuine, raw clarity of truth that doesn't have any ego peppered into it is my favorite thing.
Yeah, and it's not, I mean, look, y'all know you're a human, and doing human better is why we're here. That's why y'all are listening to this. All of you that have joined, that are on right now, and there's quite a lot of you, you're here because you want to hear that not only is it possible to do human better, but how do I do that better? And what happens when I do that better? Well, I'm living proof you can live an existence that is going to have its bumps and its grinds. You better know how to do the freak. Just saying. Because that's what life is, you know? It's just, in fact, that's a dance from like, the 1980s, just so I aged myself. But seriously, it's going to, life is a bump and grind. You can choose to do what you want with the bump and grind. It's all up to you. How do you want to jive with that? How do you want to maneuver that? How do you want to manage it? And that's, if you're watching this right now, you're obviously got those questions. Or if you just needed the confirmation that you're on point, and that's all you've needed from this, then you're on point. Yo, Debbie, yeah, we freak freely. That's right, baby. Fly that freak flag. Hello. I'll be there in Palm Springs. You are in boot camp. I cannot wait, Sandy. Rock on with
Sandy's great.
you.
Sandy's
Pump
great.
up.
You're gonna love Sandy when you meet her.
I cannot wait.
Yeah, you two are so gonna hit it
Pump
off.
up the volume, baby. Hey, Jody, you're at Palm Springs. You need to. Why don't you come to the event? It's March 15th and 16th. Hit me up. I'll send you the link. Polarity, Bill. Bill, completely. Life is polarity. I was thinking about this the other day, and what blew me away was the fact that I was born into getting warm here. I was born into polarity. Okay, and the reason I say this is that I was born, had a birth certificate with some dude's name on it that I have no relation to, and I almost passed away from having jaundice. And I tried to leave the planet, but decided to stay here and grew up in polarity. I had this oh so awesome childhood, this oh so traumatic childhood. And I've had this oh so awesome, incredible adulthood and so much trauma too. And that is life, and none of us are any different. And all of these tools are how you maneuver and how you do the bumpity bump through life, right, David? The bumpity bump.
Yeah, everybody that I know that is into this sort of stuff has been through some stuff. You don't just have an easy cake life and end up here, and that's okay, because that's what we chose to manifest into, so that we could have more of a growth experience. Not every
Absolutely.
soul is looking for that. Some souls want to be born into ease, to have an easier experience. But a lot of times,
Yeah.
those people will. I have two older cousins that had a lot more money than we did growing up, and they were, really spoiled. They had everything they wanted. My brother and I had nothing. It was really, we wore their hand me downs. I'll never forget going over to my Aunt Irene's house one day, and she invited my brother and I over to work in her yard for money, and my cousins were laying inside watching television. And we were all the same relation to this woman, but they had
Mm,
money. They didn't need her money. She was,
mm.
definitely vibed more with them because they were all rich. We were the black sheep of the family. We were the poor white trash in my family. And so we had to
Woo.
go to work for the day. But both of those guys turned out very differently than my brother and I did. Their lives were they placed a lot of obstacles in their paths where my brother and I removed ours. And there was drug addiction, there was lifetime addiction, there was all sorts of things that they placed in their paths. And life has been a rot. We're all, I'm the youngest, I'm 57, so we're 50s to 60s now. And life's been rough for those two. And, grew up with so much, I don't like to use the word privilege because there's so much victim vibe tied to it, but they grew up very privileged, very, very privileged. And
Yeah.
then they created their own contrast though. It was kind of like, this is too easy. I want to expand my consciousness and have a different experience. So I'm going to be a drug addict, or I'm going to, do all these other things that are going to get me in trouble. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying that they sort of backloaded their contrast, where my brother and I had ours up front, and then we kind of created from it as adults. They did the opposite. They had this sort of smooth childhood into teenage years, and they started disrupting after that. They probably leveled off since then. They're probably pretty chill by now, I'd imagine, but they had a rocky time for a while. It was very opposite of our experience.
Well, and that's the fact. You can have people in the same exact household growing up, and they're going to have completely different experiences or not.
Yeah.
But how that the experiences have shaped you and how you're allowing them, and see, the difference is David's in control today on how the experience has shaped him. He is in control of his brain. If your life is out of control and it's a mess, it's because you're allowing some things you probably should. Well, I mean, no, can't say shouldn't, because that's not even, I don't even know why it's in the vocabulary. You're allowing it. That's all. That's it. And that's what I hope you all got from this, is that you have big choices, and a giant pattern interrupt would be coming to visit us in Palm Springs. That's what I'm going to say. And we're coming up on the hour, and I'm going to end this hour with thanking everybody and telling you that gratitude EQ is about using gratitude in motion. And I just got interrupted because my buddy Phil Stolo, I love you. Thank you, Yogi. I've known Mr. Phil Stolo since I was 18. Say hi. He's going to tell you firsthand that I'm going to call you on your shit. I'll tell you what, David, you should know Yogs, because David's amazing and spectacular. And thank you so much. I appreciate you. Gratitude really is about reaching out to those people that you do love, and even those ones you don't. And that person that you're afraid of grabbing a hold of, that's your choice, but you could be missing out on a great experience. And that's really what it's all seriously about, is loving each other through this life. And it's all just a big experience. David, how do we get together in Palm Springs? Everybody, I'm going to put this back up on the screen. Screenshot your phones.
Yeah,
do what you need to do.
And we do have, it's a 2-day event, but if you live in LA or San Diego and you just want to drive for the day, we have a Saturday only option now, because we did get a lot of requests. My biggest podcast audience is LA. And I think there are a lot of people in LA that just want to come over for Saturday and not necessarily stay overnight here. And, schlepping back and forth is a bit of a drive. So we have 2 options there that you can do. And you can see Debbie both days. You're going to be there both days.
I'm going to be there both days, and you guys can come, and just know that the experience is what we're after. That's what changes our nervous system. And if the only thing you have that you can change your nervous system with is to get outside and take a walk, then do that. If you can't get outside and take a walk, then get your eyes away from that phone and look away from the screen just for a few, please, dear God. We shall see you. We shall see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you all. Thank you, Debbie.